Salvete omnes, welcome back to this Monday edition of the AP Latin live stream. I'm Jenny Luonga. We're excited to have you back with us reviewing book one of the Aeneid. And I'm here with my friend.
Yes, I'm Ben Johnson. And Jenny, I think that we should play a game.
Yeah, we're going to start out first thing with a Kahoot. Very exciting.
Yes.
Yeah.
My children are not playing today. I just want to let you know.
Well, today's game, you can go to www.kahoot.it to log in. And we have, of course, as is traditional here on the AP Latin live stream, an incredibly long pin for this game. But today, we're going to be targeting some participles and infinitives. So that may be more than your kids wanted to talk about today. But
I mean, just like my normal students were like, hey guys, infinitive review, participle review. They're like, yeah, we're going to pass on this.
Yeah, that's so much fun though. So much fun.
I know.
Okay, so once you get to www.kahoot.it, then you're going to type in the pin septem octo tres nihil sex octo duo. I'm so excited. I think I might have said all the numbers today, Ben. We're really on today.
I wish Kahoot had a funny mnemonic to help you with this.
Yeah. But
like 783 had 0 people over for dinner. Then 682.
maybe they're watching and they're working
lively
on their
lobster.
Mnemonics.
That's what I had for dinner tonight.
Oh, of course, being from Maine.
Yeah,
we're also jealous. We're also jealous.
You get sick and tired. Homerus, right? Homerus is the Latin term for it, and it reminds me of a famous epic poet, right?
Oh yeah.
Let me double check that.
All right, so just a reminder, even if you haven't joined the game yet, at www.kahoot.it with that pin septem octo tres nihil sex octo duo, you can still do it once we get started. But we're going to go ahead and get started because we have so many fun things planned for you today that we want to make sure we get through them all before midnight or something like that. So maybe we'll get a little Kahoot music going if we're lucky. All right, so what we want to know from you right now is if a participle ends with ns or contains nt, how should you translate it? So does the ns or nt indicate having been, about to be, must be, or blanking? All right.
Which hopefully is not what you are doing right now.
Right, exactly. Hopefully you're totally on top of this situation. All right, I think, Ben, have to cut them off at 15, which is
That's
so
okay.
sad. But
we've got a lot of Latin to do today.
We do have a lot of Latin to do today. So
lots of similes.
Yeah, so let's go on to the answer. Oh, look, how many of they were not blanking. They knew what was going on. So NS or NT is going to be how you translate. When you see an NS or an NT, you're going to translate it with ing, blanking in Latin. Ben, do you know what the indicator for like must be blanked would be?
That sounds like a gerundive to me, right?
Yeah, so you're going to have an ND.
So ND because it's gerundive. Yeah,
exactly,
there we go.
Exactly. Okay. And then
You're putting me on the spot there.
Exactly.
About to be sounds like a future active. So I mean, as I tell my students and my own children, you are the future, right? So they remember.
Exactly. Okay. All right. So it's so handy that those words in English like future and gerundive have helped us remember the indicators in Latin.
What about present? Present with an N. Oh.
With an NT. Nice. You're giving things away, but that's all right. That's okay.
I knew this.
So if a part or NT, what tense and voice is it? Is it going to be perfect passive, future active, present active, or future passive? Were you listening to Ben? Is the question. Hopefully they were.
I mean, you might just know it too. I mean, this is a review, so we're looking for everyone to feel success.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I think I'm gonna cut them. Oh, look, they all got it. So
because
fast.
I told them the answer.
You did tell them the answer, but when you see NT, it is a present participle and it's active. So blanking. All right, let's keep going.
Yeah, the word present, right, comes from the present participle. Okay.
Exactly. How easy is that? So now we're looking at condere, tenere, moliri, audire, curre, verere, and sequi. What are they all? Are they all perfect infinitives, perfect participles, present infinitives, or future participles? All right, let's see how they do. So some of these end in RE, and some of them don't. So that's something to think about for sure. All right, I think I'm going to cut them off at 15 again, but they seem to be getting them in pretty quickly.
I think they've got this. There we go.
Yeah. Okay, good job, guys. So all of those are present infinitives. This is also known as the second principal part of the verb. And so the ones that end with an RE are regular verbs for the most part, and the ones that end with an I are deponent.
Way to classify them. You aren't regular.
Yeah, I know. It sounded, so discriminatory.
Someone's answering really quickly. I don't know.
I don't know who that is. Yeah, exactly. I don't know who that is. All right. So, dixisse, kertasse, kinksisse, petiwisse, and amasse. Are they all future active? Are they all present active? Are they all perfect passive, or are they perfect active? And I'll give you a little hint. They're all infinitives.
Okay, they're not superlatives.
They're not superlatives, even though they have the double S, even though they have the double S. The fact that they're formed off of that third principal part from a verb is your clue that they are not, in fact, adjectival. All right, I'm going to cut them off at 10 this time. All right.
We've got some late joiners, so there we go.
Yeah, we do. And you can still join the game at kahoot.it with that game pin that's at the bottom of your screen. So the double SE is an indicator, especially because it's attached to that third part of the verb. It's perfect active. Notice that two of these are syncopated forms. The VI has dropped out of amawisse, but amasse is still a valid form, and kertasse, which is one we're going to see today. All right. They're doing great. Let's keep going. Misura, visurus, and futurum esse are all perfect active, future active, perfect passive, or present active. And the good news is that we've already kind of reviewed this with them. So hopefully they're going to be able to get these pretty easily.
You just look for the letters, right?
Right, exactly. Very often it's like two letters that are the indicator for these infinitives and participles that we're reviewing.
Sometimes, well, and in fact, right, the terms that we use to describe these, whether it's gerundive or gerund or future or present, like those words etymologically come from the Latin form.
It's so convenient for English speakers. Yeah. All right, I'm going to cut them off at 10 this time. So again, you can still join kahoot.it and the game pin's at the bottom, but we got to keep moving. So as we said before, these are future participles. The UR is a big indicator. Well, I shouldn't have said they're participles because futurum esse is an infinitive, but they're all future. That's right. They're all future and active. All right, we'll keep going.
We had a change in the leader.
I saw a change in the leaderboard. That's exciting. Okay, so now amatus, quasatam, advecti, emissam esse, and refusa esse are they future active, perfect passive, perfect active, or present active? So one thing with participles and tenses is it's always good to think about which part of the verb it is. So amo, amare, amawi, amatus. We've got amatus here, so clearly we're dealing with fourth principal parts for this particular question. What do you think? Do you think that most of them will have it by 15, or should we wait for 10?
Let's wait until 20 people answer.
Okay.
There we go.
I'll cut them off at 15. Yeah. All right, here we go. So these are all perfect passive. And
both participles and infinitives, right?
Some of them are participles like amatus. Some of them are infinitives because of Miss essay. But honestly, we know from all the Latin that we've been reviewing and reading that infinitives don't need the essay to still be infinitives. So
sorry, what's that called? Is that
I
Caesar
believe it's
uses
called
this,
ellipsis.
right?
Yeah,
Yes.
I believe it's called ellipsis. All right, almost there. So let's do some translating. How would you translate acti fatis? Does it mean
two people now? Two people are answering before they get the question.
So exciting. Would you translate it the actions of the fates, driving the fates, driven by the fates, or to have driven his fates?
Isn't that a movie from like the 1990s, Driving the Fates?
Right, driving the fates, driving Miss Daisy.
Okay.
I feel like that movie's kind of dated now.
I think, Jenny, I think we're dated.
Okay, maybe.
I think that's the problem.
That very well could be it. So when you're thinking about this, it's important to know or to note not just that participle form, acti, which one it is, but it's also important to think about what case fatis is, because that's going to help you eliminate some. Look at them before their countdown ran out. So acti is from that fourth principal part of ago, agere, egi, actus, having been driven, or you can just say driven, and then fatis is ablative, so driven by the fates. All right, last one. Here we go. Translate this infinitive. Dixit se id facere. So the infinitive here is facere, which they probably know because my students love the verb facere. I don't know about your students.
We don't talk about it.
Okay. All right. We'll just omit that. Okay. So here we're looking at an infinitive in its most common use, probably, don't you think, as an indirect statement?
Yes. Yeah, which and the important thing here is to look at Dixit, right? You have to look at facere, of course, but looking at Dixit, that's the important thing, because that's going to, because with Latin, unlike with English, right? You change one word in an indirect statement, and then you change two things in Latin when you're translating it. So it's a lot easier to understand indirect statements in English, in Latin, just in Latin, without having to worry about translation or anything like that.
Right, exactly.
Latin's so much easier understood. Latin's easier, so much understood in just Latin, and not having to worry about
having to translate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this was a struggle. This was a struggle. So I'm glad we're going over this with them. So Dixit say, he said that he, or she said that she. It could be either. It could be they said that they, if you're using the singular they, right? Yeah. Okay. So he said that he, and then we've got facere, that present infinitive we just talked about, but it's happening at the same time as the Dixit. So he said that he did it. Facere id. So even though the infinitive is facere, we're not going to, in an indirect statement, translate it as to do. It's just not going to make much sense. He said that he to do it. So something to be careful about. If we had that perfect infinitive, fecisse, that would be had done it. He said that he had done it even further in the past. And if we had the facturum esse, he said that he would do it. Okay, so you have to pay attention to the first verb and then to the tense of the infinitive. All right, that was kind of complicated, but they seem to
was doing would also work there. Like, we don't know if it's a simple action or a continual action.
Yeah, just so it was in the past, that would have been fine. Yeah. All right. I will stop sharing. We'll let Diligent Puffin celebrate the victory.
We did last, what was it, Thursday? We had someone screenshot this and then tweet at us. So if you're proud of your victory in Kahoot, why not?
Absolutely.
Of course, I think it was a Latin teacher.
It might have been. It might have been. I think Latin teachers are just having too much fun playing. So
I think so.
Yeah, they don't usually get to play in their class. So
it's like going out trick-or-treating and stuff.
Right, exactly. All right, so we played Kahoot. As we mentioned before, this is the AP Latin live stream. I'm Jenny Luongo. I teach at St. Andrew's Episcopal in Austin, Texas, and you can tweet at me at Parwa Luongo, and I'm joined by.
Hold on. There we go. I'm Ben Johnson. I teach at Hampden Academy, which is the public school in Hampden, Maine. And please feel free to tweet at me. I'm at Latin Tutorial. And we do, when we get good feedback during the live streams, or if you have any questions or anything that you'd like to ask, then please feel free to do that. And we'll be checking throughout this. And also, like this is a way that you can contact us outside of the live stream. So please feel free to ask us questions on Twitter there. It doesn't have to be during the live stream, and we will try our best to answer, give you a good answer. Hopefully it might not be something that you're like the complete answer that you want to know, because sometimes we don't know stuff. But hopefully we can put you in the right direction. So we had some homework that we wanted you guys to do over the weekend, because why not? I mean, it's the weekend. What else are you going to do? And this was, you may remember this from book 6 when we covered that. Aeneas notices a youth in the underworld. And so we wanted you to do something a little bit different. We haven't really done like a 2-part response here where we're like, write in 2 or 3 sentences what happens to this character, or in 1 or 2 sentences identify the historical person, and so forth. So this is a little bit different, and hopefully got you to practice a little bit on some of that stuff. So let's look at the first question here. Translate the words egregium forma, UNM, et fulgentibus armis as literally as possible. So I went with a youth for UNM, remarkable egregium in his form and shining weapons. And this word Uranus is often translated as young man and stuff, but it can be it can be used to refer to females too. So I wanted to make sure that that's clear for part B, because B asks you to identify a character that these words can be applied to in books 7 through 12. So hopefully you've read 7 through 12. I like to have my students read all of 7 through 12, just because like the Aeneid is a great work to read, even if like on the original AP syllabus, you only really are responsible for books 8 and 12. But so a lot of these characters aren't found in just 8 and 12, they're found in other books. But still pretty neat and interesting. So what we're looking for here is a youth, maybe remarkable in his form or her form, because that, you know, pretty handsome youth is kind of something that shows up to illustrate the bad things that happen sometimes because of the founding of Rome. And who's also renowned in fighting. And so this could be Pallas, who gets killed by Turnus in book 10, and whose sword belt is worn by Turnus, and it's what creates the rage in Aeneas that ends book 12. Could be Euryalus, whose death features in book 9. He's a youth who goes on a great midnight raid and stuff. Could be Lausus, who is remarkable in arms, and he ends up getting killed by Aeneas in book 10. Could be Turnus too, who's the main antagonist of Aeneas, but he's also described in some ways as being very handsome and is a great warrior. And even possibly Camilla, who's this great warrior maiden who has a fantastic section in book 11, which is in some ways like one of my more favorite sections. And in my own class, I have people that love Camilla. She's got a great story. And it's worth reading, and they all meet their death in battle. And that's unfortunate, and kind of shows, like when we were talking about the different themes of the Aeneid, how there's the greatness of Rome and then the tragedy that accompanies that greatness. And it's these youths that kind of experience that tragedy, just similar to this Marcellus too, who is featured in here. And that's question number 2. His name is Marcus Claudius Marcellus. He's the son of Octavia, which makes him the nephew of Augustus. He's also Augustus's son-in-law because he's married to Augustus's daughter Julia, and he died suddenly when he was 19 years old. He was cremated and then interred in the mausoleum of Augustus. And we, when we covered this section on the live stream a couple weeks ago, we talked about this mausoleum when we showed pictures of the mausoleum too. So please go back and check that out. And if you have any questions about this section, go check that live stream out. Okay, so today we're gonna go on to Carthage and Dido. And so we're gonna cover a little bit from book 1 in the 400s when Aeneas and Achates are approaching the city of Carthage, and then also when they work their way in and kind of mix in with the people and see Dido for the first time. This is a review though, so we expect that you've already read this. We'll go rather quickly through this. Hopefully you will understand like the scope of the epic too, its themes and characters, and we're going to focus on identifying grammatical forms today and other structures too. So we, just like what we did with the Kahoot in the beginning, we're going to review participles and infinitives. And this is a section where Virgil uses similes, 2 similes actually. And so we're going to talk about how he uses them and maybe what they mean and how maybe you can think about similes if you're reading the work and it's in the greater work. We had our first simile 2 live streams ago when we were talking about the orator. And this time we have 2 other great similes. They're connected throughout the work, and it's something neat. I mean, a simile, an extended Virgilian simile, isn't just something that you just kind of breeze through.
All right, so you can find all of the information you need for the live stream in our bit.ly/AP Latin YouTube resource folder. Go ahead and take out all the materials that you normally have out with you for today's work, and we're going to go ahead and move into today's work because we're hoping to get to a pair deck at the end. So we've got all sorts of goodies planned for you today. All right, so Aeneas and Achates, Fidus Achates, they make it to Carthage in this part. So we want you to answer these questions, think about these questions. We have stopped kind of putting things in orange for you because we want to get you used to looking at the text for the exam, which won't have the answers highlighted for you, sadly.
If only.
If only. So number 1, give the tense and mood of corripuere in line 418. That's the very first word in this section. Then number 2, give the 4 things that Aeneas wonders at in lines 421 to 422. So we see Aeneas mirator, he wonders at a bunch of stuff. What kind of participle is ardentes in line 423? It is a participle. You might not translate it necessarily as if it were a participle because it's adjectival here, but we wanted you to practice participles. Number 4, what kind of infinitive is moliri in line 424? Man, that Kahoot could probably really help them out if they remember. And then what 4 other words is moliri parallel to? So a lot of times we've talked about this when you're looking for a grammatical parallelism, you want to look for things that are alike or like in some way to moliri. And then finally, we want you to give 3 specific things that Aeneas sees the Carthaginians doing in 427 to 429, those last 3 lines of this section. All right, Ben, we probably don't have a lot of time for them to think, do we?
We can give them, what, 15, 20 seconds?
Oh yeah, they can always pause it, but if they want to do the pair deck at the end, man, it's a quandary. You got to keep up or just decide you're going to do the pair deck later. And we, as always, will post the Kahoot and the pair deck for you to practice with on your own. All right, here we go. So corripuere is an alternate form for corripuerunt. So it's that 3rd person plural perfect indicative. So meanwhile, they snatched, they seized the way, the road. And so
don't want to confuse it. This is our infinitive say, but you don't want to confuse that with the present infinitive, right?
Right. My students always say, well, how can you tell the difference? And it's because this one comes from that 3rd part. It has the U indicating that.
It's also the E, the corripuere, that second to last E is always going to be long.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
All right, so in 419, and now Yamque ascendebant colum, they were climbing the hill which looks over the city, the most, plurimus, and now they're going to look at the city. So what is Aeneas wondering at? He wonders at molem, the mass, the size of the city. Quondam Megalia, once huts, just like Rome. Who knew? He wonders at portas, the gates. He wonders at strepitum, the noise, and he wonders at strata viarum, the pavements of the streets, the paved roads in this city. Then in the next section, the Tyrians are described as ardentes turii. So this means burning. It's a present active participle, but it often gets translated as eager because it's,
burning with passion, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what kind of infinitive is moliri? It's a present deponent infinitive. So we talked about how those ones that end in I are from deponent verbs, moli or moliri. And it's used here either as a complementary infinitive with instant, or sometimes people take it as a historical infinitive. It just depends on how you want to read this section. But the burning Tyrians press on, part ducere, to build walls. Okay, so this is one of the infinitives that's parallel with moliri, and to build Archem, the fortress, and to subvolere, to roll up rocks with their hands, optare locum, to pick a place, so optare is another one, and then to concludere, enclose it with a ditch, solco. All right, so we learned that legunt, they're choosing their laws and their magistrates and a senate. Boy, this does sound like Rome, huh? And then Aeneas sees those Carthaginians doing several things in lines 427 to 429. So you could say that they were effodiunt portus, they were digging out harbors. They were locant, placing alta fundamenta, high foundations for theaters. They are excidunt, cutting imanes columnas, huge columns from rocks. So they're building their city. All right.
So the fact that Virgil's making this newfound Carthage very similar to Rome is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it really is. And he offers all sorts of parallels. We talked about the Aeneas Turnus parallel. We're going to talk some more today about other parallels too.
Okay, so we are going to skip a little bit because this is something that you're going to be doing for your learning opportunity, right?
Right, exactly. The
homework,
qualis ape section.
So this is the famous B simile. It's actually not the only B simile. There are a couple of B similes also in the rest of the book, and it's actually kind of interesting to see how this kind of progresses and to see how the Bs are kind of different. And Virgil loves Bs. I mean, he wrote a whole book of the Georgics on Bs because Bs are great, right? Bees make honey. So anyway, we're going to kind of skip this though. Essentially, we're going to talk about how Virgil talks about how the Carthaginians are kind of building their city in similar ways to the work that bees do. And there's a bunch of things that they will do, and we'll talk about it next live stream after you do it for homework. So finally, in 437, Aeneas speaks again, and that's kind of where we want to start with this O Fortunati. So the Roganda that we have here start in what, 439? So what kind of participle is Cyptus? So that's kind of down there. That you guys see where that is. What's the form and use of dictu at the end of 439? And then translate uli in 440. You kind of need to take that with the whole rest of its phrase to kind of make it make sense. And then there's a section about the Trojan War mural, which we'll kind of talk about as we kind of go through this. But then what is the form of Miranda in 494, which is the second to last word there. Then the case, use, and translation of magnas stipante caterva. Notice the long A's, and what kind of participle is stipante? Notice the NT, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, I think they have this. They can pause if they need wait time, right?
Okay. Whoops. So here we go. So Cyptus so we've talked about this bees, and then Aeneas talks about how lucky these people are whose walls are now rising, because the walls that he wants to build for his city, which will eventually lead to the walls of Rome, it's going to be a big struggle for him to do that, and so he's kind of jealous in some ways with this proto Rome in some ways, and he looks up at the heights of the city. And then he's Cyptus nebula. He's enclosed in a cloud, because remember his mother Venus cloaked him in a cloud, and so he wouldn't be harmed as he goes into Carthage, because Carthage might be enemy territory, might be hostile to him because of Juno. So then we have the fact that he's cloaked in a cloud with mirabile dictu, and dictu is an ablative supine, and when an ablative supine is used, it's in a ablative of specification phrase with mirabile. So it's amazing with respect to seeing, or you could just translate that as amazing to see.
To say, dictu, non visu.
Yes, that's right. Translate. Okay, I'm off my game now. And so he goes into Paramedios. That's okay. No, it was my own fault. Saying and seeing. I mean, it's so that he goes into the Paramedios. He goes through the middle of men, of everyone, and he mixes with people. And he is not seen uli. He is not seen by anyone. And this is a dative of agent. That's used poetically. Normally, datives of agents are used with passive paraphrastics, gerundas of obligation, but in poetry, they can be used in just with regular passives like they are here. Poets take all the liberties. So then he and Achates go into this temple of Juno, which is kind of interesting because it's the temple of Juno, right? And Juno's not really in favor of the Trojans, and she's actually kind of hostilely trying to get Aeneas killed. And so in this temple, though, there is a mural of the Trojan War. And Aeneas and Achates view all of these different scenes of the Trojan War, and they think that, well, if anyone knows of their plight and how sad the Trojans are about having lost the war, like then they really feel for them, and this might be a nice safe place for them to kind of like set up and to rest and recover from the storm. Although, like, if you actually go back and you reread in typical Virgilian fashion, you reread it and you're like, well, what if this is actually like describing like the heroic victories of the Greeks instead of the plight of the Trojans? You can kind of see that Aeneas completely, utterly misinterprets the Trojan mural in a really cool way. And also the Trojan mural kind of is set up to foreshadow a whole lot of other events that happen in the rest of the Aeneid too. So Virgil does a great job with that, and you should reread it, of course, in English. So anyway, so we have this Miranda. So while these things seem amazing to Trojan Aeneas, and it's a nominative neuter plural gerundive, and it's the subject or the predicate of videntur. And while he's looking at this, while he's dumbstruck, stupet, and he's clinging to one view, one panel on this, which is actually the panel of depicting the death of Penthesilea by Achilles. He's looking at Penthesilea, this great warrior queen, this dux femina, and he sees this, and then this queen walks in. Regina templum, formal pocerima Dido. Dido, very beautiful in her form. She strides in, and we have this ablative absolute with a large crowd pressing around her. And hopefully you remember that stipante with that nt is a present active participle.
That nt is so helpful.
Yeah, way too much to talk about in these lines.
I know. All right, so now we're looking at another simile with the qualis. Ben mentioned we were going to have a couple today. So I just gave you the answer to number one. That was so nice of me. Number one, what stylistic device is introduced by qualis? Let's pretend like that never happened. But number two, what kind of participle is gradiens, and how are you going to translate it? Number three, with what noun does tacitum in line 502 agree? Number four, what's the case and use of gaudia, also in 502? In 503, whom does se refer to and what adjective modifies it? And then number six, why are operi regnisque futuris dative? All right, I think I can do it, especially because I told him the first answer.
We've been doing that a lot today.
I know. All right, so I mentioned that qualis introduces a simile, and so here Dido is compared to like Diana training her choruses, exercit choros. And so the kind of participle that gradiens is in line 01, it talks about how the Oreads, the mountain nymphs, are gathering around her, and then she's carrying paretram, her quiver, on her shoulder, gradiensque, and walking. She towers over, supereminent, omnes deas, all the goddesses. So that ns, just like the nt, present participle. In the next line, joys, pertemptant. I always struggle with this word. It kind of means to press on, right, Ben? How do you translate it?
Yeah, like please.
Yeah.
Like
this press is on in terms of like moving her, right?
Yeah, and this is a tough line because I actually don't understand. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, so
it's Latona's joys, like
joys are moving the silent heart of Latona. So
she's like proud. She's proud of her daughter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So gaudia is the nominative subject. Tacitum agrees with pectus, the direct object, and it's important that she's silent because she's not bragging the way that Niobe did, right? and got herself in trouble. She's just like, wow, look at my daughter. She's super cool. So number 5. So we have Talus erat Dido. Dido was like this. Such was Dido. And Lyta, an adjective that doesn't often describe Dido in the Aeneid, happy, she was carrying, say, herself. So the say is Dido, and she was carrying herself talem, such, in this way. Then number 6, why are those words operi regnisque futuris dative? It's because she is urging on instans the work and her future kingdoms. So instans being a compound verb takes a dative. It's a special verb that takes a dative. All right.
There's a lot of verbal echoes too in this section to the section about the bees. I think that there are a lot of words that are reused, and and it's pretty neat to look at that because the bees are the Carthaginians. So in this next section, we're at the gates of the Temple of Juno. Sorry. First question again. Who is the DY?
We're so nice to these kids today.
We really have to go. So
yeah, exactly.
It was just described. So remember in 439 when we described someone as Saiptos? Well, someone else is described as Saipta in 506. So who are both of those? Translate sorte trahebat in 508. What is the use of the infinitive accedere in 509? What is the subject of dispulerat, and how should you translate it? I think this is one of the common themes that we're using about nominatives that don't look nominative. What kind of participle is perculsus, and with what noun does incognita agree in 515? So let's go to those answers. So this is at the Temple of Juno, at the gates of the goddess, at the gates of this temple, in the middle of the turtle shell of the temple. So this is the vault.
The vault,
the ceiling.
yeah.
Yeah.
So great.
And then, and we had Aeneas was Saiptus Nebula, right? He was enclosed in a cloud. And so here Dido is Saipta Armis. She's enclosed with weapons. She's being guarded by her troops. Translate sorte trahebat. So she sat down in her temple and she was giving laws and she was dividing up the works among her people, partibus justis, with just parts. So she wasn't playing favorites in a lot of ways, but maybe there might be some jobs that she didn't want to necessarily pick for who would do what. And so she was drawing by lot, which is essentially she was randomly assigning, rather than saying you do this, you do that. There are lots of things that we might do, like a magic 8-ball, or going on something called like wheel decide to figure out like who gets what without having to choose. And then suddenly Aeneas Widet, he sees a bunch of people, Antheus, Sergestus, brave Cloanthus, and others of the Trojans. He sees that they accedere, that they approach with a great throng or something like that. And so that's going to be an indirect statement after our head verb widet. And these are the people whom, quos in 511, the Ater Turbo, the black storm, whirlwind, had scattered. And so Ater Turbo is going to be the subject, and we translate this because it's dispulerat, it's in the perfect tense. All these people whom the storm had scattered and had carried off to other shores. And so he is dumbstruck. And we also have Achates too. Achates is perculsus, which is a perfect passive participle. He's struck or shocked, struck with laetitiaque metuque, with joy and fear, because they don't really understand the situation. And that's this idea that they really wanted to, they were burning to go out and to shake hands. But the incognita res, the confusing situation, the unknown situation, was disturbing their minds, their animos there. Oh.
All right. Shall we do it?
We made it to the end. Yeah, let's do it. I mean, we're here all night, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay, so let me take this down.
All right, sounds good. Then I'll get my screen up. Okay, we're going to do a pair deck for this last section. And we're going to be, again, focusing on infinitives and participles. So you can go to joinpd.com and type in JAJVS, which stands for Juicy Avocados Jump Victorious Submarines. But don't type in that whole sentence, just the 5 letters, JAJVS.
So we have a request on Twitter for a shout out to Mr. Toscano and his AP Latin class, which we're watching right now.
Oh, excellent! Thanks for watching, and what a great Italian name.
Yeah, it's one of our regulars too who interacts with us. So.
Oh, excellent.
A student in his class.
Excellent.
So. Yeah.
Awesome. So at any rate, you can still do the PD, the joinpd.com, even after we get it started. So I'll say it again, but it's JAJVS, and we're going to go ahead and start class just because we're running out of time as always. All right. So for this section, we want you to draw the green dot to a present active participle. So this is what Aeneas and Achates do when they see their friends come dissimulant. They pretend.
I think here it's they stay hidden.
Yeah. They're pretending that they're not there. They're hiding themselves and cloaked in a hollow cloud. Yeah, exactly. Okay. They spy out. They look for what fortune is for their men. All right, so a present active participle. Oh, look at them. They found the orantes. That's a good one with that NT. So they're finding out what fortune is for the men. They're finding out, or they want to find out on what shore they leave their fleet. Am I missing any present participles there, Ben? I think that was
no. A lot of people are looking at NTs, but an NT could also be a third person plural.
Right. It's that orantes. Yeah. So now we're going to find 2 perfect passive participles. So another thing that they're looking for, they're trying to figure out is quid veniant, why they've come. They see that they were gathered from all the ships they were going, begging for veniam, begging for mercy, and petabant, they were seeking the temple with a shout. All right, let's see how we're doing. So amicti, they are cloaked. That's a good one that you could have put it on. And then so introgressi is not really passive because it's a deponent verb, but lecti would be a great one to put it on, chosen from all the ships. Did I miss any others?
Yeah, there's another one down there in the second to last line. Do you remember what word that is?
Is it data? An opportunity given? Oh, nice. Yeah. I'm excited that I remembered that.
Very good.
All right, perfect active participle. So this, I just gave you a hint on this one. So hopefully you're speeding your way towards that deponent verb introgressi is where you want to be headed for that. The only kind of verb that has an active in meaning participle is a deponent verb. So sometimes we just say it's a perfect deponent participle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after
having, some textbooks teach it as perfect actives, but it's really just it's a perfect participle.
Perfect deponent participle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so after they entered introgressi and the opportunity was given, now we want to find the gerund that's here. So let's see how we're doing on that. Oh, they're so good. They knew an opportunity was given fondi for speaking. That ND is your big clue. All right, next one, purple dot to an indirect question. So I mentioned the indirect questions earlier. Purple dots on those. Hopefully
you reviewed this on an earlier live stream on how to find certain uses of the subjunctive. So
we did. So hopefully
watch them all. Everyone went for the easy one.
So quid veniant, that's a good one. The quo litere, the quae fortuna, but it looks like the purple dots are all headed in the right direction.
Yeah.
All right. Good job. Okay, last one. Drag the gray dot to an ablative of manner. So near the end, it says postquam introgressi, after they entered and an opportunity was given for speaking, quorum, face to face. Greatest Aeneas began. Let's see how we're doing. Good. Placido pectore, with a calm chest. That's how he spoke. He was calm.
There's also the clamore. They were seeking the temple.
They were seeking the temple with a shout. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mention that. If you want to put the slideshow back up.
So.
Okay. All right. You were on it, Ben. You were on it.
I knew where you were going, so I wanted to make sure.
good.
Those people got it right. Okay, so quickly, question to think about. So this simile of Dido to Diana, notice that they both begin with the same letter, right? Virgil likes to do that. We've kind of talked about that before. Dido to Diana compared to the below simile of Aeneas to Apollo. Both of those begin with the same letter too. So in book 4, there's this great simile where before the hunt, Aeneas is compared to Apollo. He's also most handsome of them all. And like Apollo, leaving behind the Lycian winter and the streams of Xanthus and visiting his mother's Delos. So Diana and Apollo are twins. And yet, if you think about Apollo and what he's doing here, and you look at his actions and how confusing they are, it kind of gives us a little bit more understanding of maybe what Virgil wants us to think about Aeneas and his actions by being in a place where he shouldn't be belonging, not really caring about what his men are doing, only really caring about himself. This simile really kind of informs us and also helps us go back to this Diana simile with Dido and think, okay, so what is Diana doing here and how should that make us understand Dido? And not wanting to spend too much time on it, but it's the idea that similes are more than just themselves and that they relate to other similes in the whole work and also relate out too if these similes are related to ones that are maybe found in Homer or in other poets like Aeneas or Bion of Smyrna and things like that. Like these similes are all connected, and Virgil's thinking about everything as he's writing this. So we also,
No worries, no worries. We wanted to, we've been asked to put up charts with grammatical information for you guys. So we won't go over this much more than we already have, but this would be a good thing to pause and get down in your notes. We've talked about how present participles have the NS or the NT that's reflected in present. Perfect passive participles are that last part of the verb. If it's deponent, it's also the last part of the deponent verb, but it's got an active meaning. So having spoken for locutus. Future active participles are going to have the UR just like future, and then future passive participles we also know as the gerundive, which again tells us to look for the ND. All right, I'll let you go over infinitives with them quickly.
A little bit longer. So infinitives are dependent, at least in the present tense, on the conjugation number, and that's why we have all 4 of them up here. So the present active is the second principal part, and that ends in an RE, and the vowel before that varies based off of the conjugation number. In the present passive, again, it's going to end in an I, but the letters that come before it are going to vary based off of the conjugation number. The perfect active is the third principal part without the I, so that's the perfect stem, plus isse, like duxisse, to have led. And in the perfect passive, we take that perfect passive participle and add on an esse as a separate word, and that gives us the to have been led form, ductus esse. The future active participle has an optional esse with it, like it could just be the future active participle all by itself with that ellipsis that we've talked about. So it's like ducturus esse, to be going to lead. And it's important too, whenever we have a participle form here, I've listed out the genders to let you know that the endings of that participle part for the perfect passive and future active can change based off of the subject. If it's like an indirect statement, you might see this ending a little bit different. And then the future passive, which I say it's too rare to care. It's the accusative supine plus eerie. You won't see it, except you do see it once in Caesar. So it's not something. It's something that a lot of textbooks are like, don't worry about this one. But every so often, you do see it, so you have to know that to be going to be led is ductum iri, but don't lose sleep over it. Okay, so this is your homework. We told you that the B simile is something you'll be exploring a little bit more in depth tonight. So 6 questions here. I don't want to spend too much time on it because you guys will. So, okay.
And you can always find your homework in our resource folder, bit.ly/APLAT and YouTube. Keep sending us feedback on Padlet at bit.ly/APLATQs, Ben's exercise for after this. And you can always tweet to us on Twitter. So thank you guys for being here. If you still need resources, it's really important that very soon you go to cb.org/tech to let the College Board know what you need. All right. Thank you, guys. Good job on infinitives and participles today. Valete omnes.
Valete.